How to mount a wheel! Y'all seen how cool the Isuzu Amigo looks with 35s lifted up like a monster truck or a rock crawler, depending on what your definition of that is. This one's going to the bleepinjeepbeastwars. In order to get these monster size 35s on this little Japanese car, I need some wheels. These are the wheels that came for free with the axles that I bought for this thing for $300. I'm going to clean these up because nothing screams 90s like chrome rims. And then I'm going to put some Gorilla Tape on the inside. I'm going to try to put these big 35s on these wheels using just tire spoons. First up, I have this little brush that has a quarter chuck on the back. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can knock down some of the big nasties out of this. I'm not sure what all that dust is. Could be just dirt, could be horse manure. Anyway, don't want to breathe that stuff in, so safety first. I got these two items from your favorite cheap tool store. I'm gonna give it a try and see, if it does any good. Here's kind of like a little before picture. You can see it's mostly just dirty. Another thing that I've noticed is it's got these metal valve stems. Metal valve stems for off-roading especially, I imagine, for like, if there's a bunch of sticks and stuff that's poking out. If you break this off, then you're kind of screwed. If you have some rubber valve stems, it's possible that, if something smacks it, it can just bend it and it'll pop back, that it won't break off. So I'm going to probably remove these, find out what size valve stems will fit in here, and then go buy a 4-pack of those and pop those in before I mount these tires up. I assume you just load that up with this wax stuff and then kind of use that to clean this. Here's some good news. This brown stuff, this orangish brown stuff, isn't rust. It's actually just dirt that's been on there for 50 years, and probably the stuff on the outside is rust because it's been inside of a moistened tire for years and years. But this stuff here is actually just cow manure that's been baked on and has been on there for 50-60 years, and so it's hard to get off. But if I manage to get it off, I'll have a nice shiny wheel to put some old junky tires on and make this car look even more classic than it is. What I'm using as a cleaning agent instead of degreaser is Easy Off. I covered this in a video a long time ago about removing nuts I discovered by accident, or because I ran out of like WD-40 and PB Blast, that if you put this on the ends of bolts that are dirty and use it as a lubricant, you let it set for a little while as per the instructions to clean your oven, this works just as good or better than PB Blast or WD-40, which isn't even a lubricant anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and give that treatment to these and let these soak while I'm finishing up this new shiny rim, and I'll show you guys the results. You can see how shiny those are in there. A lot better. Probably about 45 minutes to an hour's worth of work. Since these wheels are from the 70s and 80s, I'm going to go ahead and do the trick from the 70s and 80s and put Gorilla Tape around the inner beadlock of this wheel. You might not have heard anyone say this before, but all wheels are beadlock wheels. Now, what people are calling true beadlocks have that external beadlock ring that bolts to the outside and clamps the outer bead of a tire to the wheel. But this little ridge right here is on a wheel is called the beadlock, because it locks the bead of the tire to the outside of the rim. So for the purposes of this video, I'm going to refer to this little ridge here as the bead locker. As so I've heard it called many times. So the problem with non-bead lock wheels, non-external bead lock wheels, is that there's nothing holding your big tires from folding over because it has low pressure, popping off of the bead lock. Also, if it takes an impact from the side, maybe you run into a rock, it could pop it off just like a tire machine does. So that's why we're going to do the taping about 3 times around this one on all 4 wheels, and then if I have any left over, I might think about doing the inside. But the inside is not really a problem because it has a longer shelf, just the way the wheels are designed. If you pop off the bead back here, you're more likely for it to pop back on because, you know, it has to fight all of this length. And then it just pops back on. So that's what we're doing right now, and enjoy the fast forward video. You know, I kept saying that these wheels are from the 70s or 80s, but there's a date right here on it. November 19th, 1982. I was born in 86. That makes these old. Went and bought a full set of these valve stems from my least favorite department store. The reason that these are going to do better is because they have a little bit of flex to them. If they get hit by a rock, they might bend, they might break, but they might not. They might hold air after being impacted by a rock or a stick or a stump or a foot. Go ahead and pick up yourself one of these tools here. This is basically just a tool that you put the valve stem through the hole. This screws on it, and it gives you a little handle to pull this through the hole, because it's very difficult to get these set in there because that's such an oversized thing to fit into a small hole. To demonstrate, got this through the hole. Screw this tool on, pull this all the way through. And there we go. Nice rubber valve stem here, nice and flexible, and that's what you want. Comes out to be like $1.30 per valve stem, so that doesn't really hurt our budget that much. But you gotta have valve stems before you put the tires on, and that's next. So how to mount a wheel. Refresh your tire with some soapy water, I think. Pick your shiniest rim, because this is a video, by the way. You kind of shove it down in there, and you should be able to push this first side through the tire without any tools. But if you can't, then you're a sissy. Then you want to go down to Herberford and grab yourself a couple of these tire spoons. They're perfect because they have little hooks on the end. I don't know if I could make that, but these were cheap enough to where I could buy 2 more when I lost my last set. It's important to point out why this has a recess right here. The reason this has this part right here is so that when you're mounting the tire, this is so much smaller than the bead that it has the place for the bead to actually go as you're putting a tire on. You remember, you want to put that back side of the bead in that recess, and that brings this side of the tire over. And then, just like you mix your mashed potatoes, you want to just stand on this, start working it on, and all you got to do is get it to bite, and then you can start using the tools. Having trouble getting it on there, so I'm going to use my tools here to help me out a little bit if I can. There we go. Now, tale of caution, right? Because I have done this before. You get one of these tools jammed up in there like this one, and you think that it's going to stay like this, and then You let go of that one so that you can grab this one and work its way around with the bead. But there's so much tension in these world's best rubber bands right here that it takes this bar, this tire spoon right here, and smacks you in the leg. And just imagine if you're down here with your face. So keep your face out of this area and know where your sticks are going to be springing to. So this end of the bead right here is not over the outside of the rim yet, and it's right there. I'm going to pop it in here in a second, but you notice how low on the rim this side of the bead is. If it didn't have this valley right here, you wouldn't be able to get the tire on and off. And it works the same putting them on as it works putting them off. Putting them off, I'm very put off at chrome. That is looking good. And honestly, that's way lighter than the tires that we got originally. So for fill-in tires, you could either get one of these from your sister for your birthday, or if you don't have one of those, because you know you're outside, you don't want to drag your chair out, build yourself one of these. My dad and I both built one of these without telling each other at the same time, actually. Basically, it's just one of these tire fillers, but instead of putting your air chuck on this end, you put a little extension, you put it on this end with a little locking mechanism on that side, because nobody wants to sit right here for 20 minutes as your knees go bad and your back hurts. So put the end of that on there, stand up, put your hands in your pockets, and fill up your tire at your leisure while you're talking to your buddy. Gonna take a little bit more probably to pop this bead because we taped them. We actually widened the diameter of that inner bead lock, or outer bead lock. And because I'm a scared little boy, I'm gonna put some earplugs in and brace myself, because I got bombed in Iraq and I don't want to hear loud noises. These are used, and some of the tread's probably worn off a little bit, making this a smaller diameter tire, but right around 34 inches for these tires. So Dan, if you're watching, and I haven't told you already, which I probably did, these are 35 by 12.5 on 15 BFG KM2s that measure about 34 inches. Just about all tires are like this, except for a select few companies that actually have like dead-on measurements for their tires at a specific PSI. Not everybody knows that, but a lot of people do. If all the tread was gone on a brand new KM3, it would probably go from being a 34-inch tire to a 33-inch tire, or maybe even smaller. So that kind of sucks, but for all intents and purposes, and in case you wanted to know, that's how big a 35-inch KM2 is. A little trick that I've learned, instead of pulling your valve core or getting, you know, a tire filler that has like a little bleed down, which this one has, just take the hose off. Just take the hose off and zip tie the, you know, the little lever down and let all the air come out the other end. Now that I'm good and tired, I'm going to show you how fast you can put one of these wheels in. It's actually pretty easy. 5-second penalty for dropping the soap. Did I just say that? All right. Here we go. shoelace. There we go. Wheel mounted. There we go. What, a couple minutes? I'll have to watch the video when I'm done editing it, without editing this part, to see how fast that was. Waiting for that last bead corner to pop. Let's put a little soaking water. Let's go. Alright, there we go. Stop the time right there. You can do this by yourself if you know you're, 300 pounds and save yourself a little money. And then you'll get that nostalgic death wobble as you travel down the road at 35 miles an hour.